You ever get that feeling that something's off, but you can't explain why? That was last Thursday for me. The day started like any other: coffee, email, scrolling aimlessly, the usual. I work from home, which sounds great until you realize it also means you spend 12 to 14 hours in your own head. My apartment's nothing special: one bedroom, a cramped kitchen that smells faintly like old linoleum, and a living room that's just big enough for my second-hand couch and a dusty TV that probably predates the internet. I don't keep a lot of things. I like things minimal, simple. Fewer objects mean fewer things to think about. Fewer places for things to go wrong. The TV was always the most temperamental part of the apartment. An old Philips box from the 90s. I keep it because it was my dad's, and even though it crackles and whines when it starts up, it still works, mostly. No cable. Just local channels when the signal's behaving and the occasional VHS when I feel nostalgic. That night I was reading. The apartment was silent except for the creak of my neighbor's footsteps above me every now and then. I was halfway through a paragraph when I heard it, this sharp, static pop. I looked up. The TV was on. I hadn't touched it. The remote was on the table, untouched. No timer, no reason. At first, I thought maybe I'd sat on the remote or accidentally hit a power button. I reached for it, but it was cold. No recent use. Weird. What was on the screen wasn't a show. Not even a channel. Just static, white, grainy fuzz and that soft, uneven hiss of analog snow. It reminded me of my childhood, back when stations actually went off the air at night. The kind of dead air that made you feel like something was waiting on the other side of the noise. I muted it and turned it off. No big deal, right? Old tech does weird things. Still, the air felt dense after that. Like someone had exhaled behind me and the breath hadn't cleared. I went to bed, told myself I was being dramatic. That night I dreamed of nothing. Not the comfortable kind of nothing either, the kind where it feels like your brain is floating in a blank space. No sounds. No thoughts. Just that hum, like an old CRT warming up. When I woke up, the TV was on again. But this time, the screen wasn't static. It was showing something. Something I didn't recognize. I sat up in bed without even thinking. No grogginess, no stretch, just a jolt, like my body knew something was wrong before my brain caught up. The glow from the living room cast soft, pulsing shadows on the hallway walls. That old blue-white TV light, flickering like a storm behind a closed curtain. It shouldn't have been on. I hadn't touched it since I turned it off the night before. I grabbed the bat I keep by the bed, not because I expected anything, but because it felt better than going in empty-handed. The living room was empty. Quiet, save for the low hum of the TV. But what it was showing made me stop in the doorway. It was a video. Not a show, not a movie. Just a fixed shot from what looked like a camera in the corner of a room. The weird part? It looked almost exactly like my living room. Same stained carpet, same uneven coffee table, same lamp with the slight lean. But there were differences too, subtle ones, like the curtain color, or the shape of the couch cushions. My brain wrestled with it. I knew it wasn't a live feed. It couldn't be. But it felt familiar. I walked slowly to the TV, keeping my eyes on the screen. There were no people in the frame. Just the empty room, the grain of the image making the lights flicker like candles. For a second I wondered if maybe it was some kind of art installation someone had taped over one of my VHS tapes. But no, this wasn't a VHS. There was no tape in the player. The input said TV. I sat down uneasy. The camera didn't move. The shot just lingered, watching that not quite my apartment from its far corner. 10 seconds. Then 30. Then a minute. And then it glitched. Just a flicker, a single frame, really fast. I barely caught it. But I swear there was a person in that frame. Not moving. Just standing in the background. I rewound instinctively, before realizing I wasn't using a tape. There was nothing to rewind. The screen flickered again, and the room on the screen, it had changed slightly. The angle was lower now. Like the camera had moved down to waist level. Same space. But closer. Like it was watching more carefully. I turned the TV off, hand trembling just a bit. The room fell into a dead silence so thick it almost rang in my ears. I didn't turn it back on. But I left the bat next to the couch that night. I didn't sleep. I barely moved the next day. Every sound in the apartment felt exaggerated, every tick of the wall clock, every footstep above, every gust of wind that slid across the windows. My eyes kept drifting to the TV, even though it was off. It just sat there, heavy and silent like some dead animal with its glassy eye aimed directly at the couch. I thought about unplugging it, but something about the idea made my stomach knot. Like that might somehow invite something instead of stopping it. Around 3 p.m., I gave in and went outside. Just a walk. Just to break the feeling that the walls were folding in. But even as I wandered aimlessly through the neighborhood, I couldn't shake the sensation that something was still watching me, from behind a curtain, from across the street, maybe even from inside myself. When I got back, the apartment was exactly how I left it. Or so I thought. I dropped my keys, took off my coat, and stopped when I passed the TV again. It was still off. But there were smudges on the screen, faint, greasy streaks like fingerprints, right in the center. I hadn't touched it. I leaned in. There were 5 prints. Human-sized, flat against the glass as if someone had placed their whole hand there and pressed. My hand hovered over them. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to confirm it was real. Then the hallway light behind me flickered and dimmed. I turned. Nothing. The hallway was empty. But the sensation I got, that prickling pressure behind the eyes when you know someone's staring at you, it was back. Palpable. Almost solid. It felt like it was behind the TV. Not in the screen, but behind the actual set. As if someone was standing just on the other side of the wall, breathing in sync with me. That night, I tried not to look at it. I buried myself in a book, volume on the stereo turned up just enough to blur out the building's usual creaks. But around midnight it happened again. A pop. Soft. Subtle. But unmistakable. The TV turned itself on. This time, there was no static. No camera feed. Just darkness. A pitch-black screen that should have looked like nothing, should have reflected the room, or the lamp behind me, but it didn't. It absorbed light instead. Like it was a hole, not a display. And then slowly, so slow I thought I was imagining it, something moved in the black. A shimmer. A shape. And then, eyes. Pale, lidless, staring directly out of the screen. Directly at me. I didn't move. I don't even think I blinked. Those eyes, they weren't glowing. They weren't dramatic or monstrous. They were just open. Human. Still. Wide enough to show the whites completely around the irises, like the person they belonged to was trying not to miss a single detail. I couldn't see the rest of the face clearly, just a pale impression, half submerged in the screen's darkness. But the way those eyes locked onto mine. They weren't watching the room. They were watching me. I backed away slowly, still facing the screen. My knees hit the edge of the couch, and I nearly stumbled. I wanted to look away, but something told me not to, like if I broke eye contact, the thing would move, would come through. And then, the mouth. It appeared without warning, no transition. Just there. Subtle at first. A slight crease in the black. Then it stretched, slow and unnatural, curling upward at the ends into something that was too wide to be a real smile. It held that expression for maybe 5 seconds. Then the screen flickered, just once. And the image changed. The camera was back. Same weirdly familiar living room, now darker than before. The lighting was all wrong, everything tinted with a sickly greenish hue like an old night vision filter, even though the lights in the scene were on. And this time, there was someone in the frame. A figure stood near the center of the room, half hidden by the angle, just barely in the shot. Their back was to the camera. They didn't move. They didn't speak. But even through the distortion, I could make out their shape. Same hoodie I wore earlier, Same jeans. Same way I stood when I was brushing crumbs off the coffee table that morning. My mouth went dry. I couldn't make sense of it. Was it old footage? Some kind of trick? A reflection? But the figure lifted its hand and scratched the back of its neck. Just like I did. A few seconds later, it shifted its weight to the right leg. Same as me. Everything it did, it was mimicking me. Not with a delay. With precision. Like it had studied me and was reenacting it. I slowly raised my hand. The figure on the screen didn't move. Finally, something that didn't match. I felt a sick wave of relief. Until the figure on the screen, so slowly I barely registered it at first, began to turn around. I couldn't breathe. Every muscle in my body locked as the figure in the screen shifted. The movement was unnatural, deliberate, like they were hyper-aware of every inch of their body, like they were rotating themselves frame by frame. Not robotic, not stiff, just too precise. First came the shoulder, then the profile. As the head turned, I caught the edge of a cheekbone, a sliver of an ear. I knew what I was about to see before I saw it. But knowing doesn't prepare you. The face on the screen. It was mine. Not just similar. Not like a cousin, or a look-alike. No. It was me. Same face, same crooked nose from a fight in high school, same scar under my chin from when I fell off a bike as a kid. Down to the smallest pore, the most insignificant wrinkle, I was staring at myself. Only it wasn't a mirror image. It was off. The smile wasn't mine. It was too full, too calm. The eyes didn't blink, they just stared. There was no breath, no twitch of life. Just this shell of me, staring back through the camera. And then, it waved. Not casually. Not like someone greeting a friend. It was slow, formal. Like a demonstration. A chill moved up my spine and settled at the base of my skull. I grabbed the remote and slammed the power button. Nothing. I yanked the power cord from the wall. Still nothing. The image didn't flicker. The room on the screen remained untouched, as if the television was no longer plugged into anything. As if the video was coming from somewhere else entirely. The other me tilted his head, and for the first time, I noticed something else. He wasn't alone anymore. There was movement at the edge of the screen. Two more figures had entered the room, one crouched low to the ground like a child, the other tall and thin, pressed against the wall as if trying not to be seen, though it made no effort to hide. Neither of them looked at the camera. But the one that crouched. I think it was sniffing the floor. I backed away from the TV, this time not caring how loud my footsteps were. And for a single, fleeting second, the sound cut out. Not on the screen, in the room. The fridge hum died. The neighbor's dog stopped barking upstairs. The usual creaks of the apartment's bones fell silent. And into that silence, from the TV, came a voice. Flat. Garbled. Still, unmistakably my own. It said, "You're not alone." Then the screen went black. And the apartment filled with noise again. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I left the TV unplugged, ripped the cord right out of the wall and threw it in the closet. But even without it, the apartment didn't feel right. Every corner felt like it was facing the wrong way. The angles of the walls weren't what I remembered. It was as if the room was tilted, just slightly. Like I was living inside a photograph that had been reprinted one too many times, same shapes, but the detail, off. Around 4 a.m., I gave up trying to stay still. I walked the apartment like a prisoner pacing a cell. Every sound from the building made me flinch. The whine of the pipes, the click of a neighbor's lock, the dull thud of movement in the floor above me. I didn't turn on any lights. It felt safer to be in the dark. That's when I noticed it. A light glow coming from under the closet door. The one I shoved the TV into. I stared at it for a long time before I moved. Could have been a trick, maybe a streetlight outside refracting weird through the blinds. But the closet shouldn't have any light source. It didn't even have an outlet inside. Still, the glow was there. Steady. Blue-tinted. That same washed-out CRT shine. I opened the door slowly. The TV was on. Unplugged. No cable, no cord, no VHS. But it was on. The screen wasn't showing the usual living room this time. It was another room entirely. But it looked built like mine. Same layout. Same furniture. Only, everything was mirrored. Like the camera had been placed behind a funhouse reflection of my life. The couch faced the wrong wall. The kitchen entry was flipped to the other side. Even the coffee table had the same nick in the wood, just on the opposite edge. I stepped closer and saw myself again, sitting on the couch in that reverse room. But I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't even blinking. I just sat there, staring straight ahead with this stillness that didn't feel human. My hands were flat on my knees. My mouth was slightly open. And my head, it tilted a little more than normal. Like something was puppeteering the weight of it. Then the camera slowly began to pan. I didn't know the feed could move. I thought it was static, locked in place. But this time, it rotated. Jittery, like an old security cam, turning left, left, left. Until it was facing the wall. A blank wall. Except, there was a hole in the wall. Small. Almost unnoticeable. And just behind that hole, a single eye was staring through it. Wide, unblinking. Too glossy. Like it had no lid. It wasn't my eye. It was watching me. Watching me watch it. I slammed the closet door shut. I wish I could tell you it was a knee-jerk reaction, just instinct, but it wasn't. It was fear. Plain, freezing fear. The kind that moves like cold oil through your veins and settles behind your ribs like a second heartbeat. There was something about it I can't explain. Not just that it was watching, but that it knew it was being watched. It wasn't startled. It wasn't afraid. It wanted to be seen. I backed away from the closet until my shoulder hit the wall, and I slid down onto the floor. I stayed like that for maybe an hour. No movement. Just my eyes darting between the closet door and the hallway. Every creak from the wood beneath my floor made my skin crawl. Eventually, the closet light faded. I didn't open it to check. The next day was a blur. I tried to work, but I couldn't sit still. My eyes kept scanning the corners of the room. The sense that something was just slightly off grew worse. And it wasn't just the TV now. I started noticing it in other places. I opened the camera app on my phone to check my appearance before a Zoom call. Normal at first glance, but in the top corner of the preview window, there was a faint flicker. Just for a second. Like a shadow passed behind me, even though I was alone and the blinds were drawn. I checked the recording. Nothing there. Later, I opened a Zoom meeting with a coworker. 5 minutes in, he furrowed his brow and said, "Hey man, is someone behind you?" I spun around so fast I almost knocked the chair over. No one. I asked what he meant. "I thought I saw a shadow like a head. It was right behind your shoulder. Then it was gone. Sorry, probably a glitch." But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. That night, I didn't even bother with the TV. I sat in the bedroom, lights off, phone off, laptop closed. I just needed silence. Something real. Something I could control. Around 2 a.m., I heard that sound again. Pop. Muffled this time. Like it came from the hallway. I crept out, heart pounding in my throat. The living room was dark, the TV unplugged, closet door still closed. But the monitor on my desk, my old computer monitor I hadn't used in weeks, was on. A low, grayish glow filled the corner of the room. I approached it slowly. And there, on the screen, was a live feed of my bedroom. Except I wasn't in it. But someone else was. Lying in my bed. Facing the wall. Motionless. Breathing slow. As if they'd been there the entire time. I didn't move. Couldn't. The image on the monitor was so still I thought maybe it had frozen, until I noticed the subtle rise and fall of the blanket. Slow. Calm. Rhythmic. Like someone was asleep in my bed. But I wasn't in the bedroom. I was standing in front of the screen, every nerve in my body screaming at me to do something, and my own bed, just 20 feet away, was occupied by someone I had never seen, but who somehow belonged there. I inched closer to the monitor, squinting at the grainy image. The figure was curled slightly, turned away from the camera. I couldn't see the face. The blankets were pulled up past the shoulders. Nothing identifiable. Just presence. I stared at the image for what felt like a full minute before I realized something was wrong. The bedroom light was on in the video, but I'd left it off. That fact, that single, tiny inconsistency, hit me like a slap. It meant the feed wasn't live. Or it was live from somewhere else. Or it was live from the other side. From their side. Suddenly, the figure in the bed shifted. Not much. Just a twitch of the hand. But then the blankets drew tighter, like something was curling in on itself. And then the head turned. Slowly. Deliberately. Turning toward the camera. I couldn't see the face yet. Just hair. A pale cheek. But I knew, it was going to be my face again. I slapped the monitor's power button. The screen went black. I stood there in the dark, heart racing, trying to calm the hurricane in my chest. I counted my breaths. I told myself I was losing it. Just stress. Just burnout. Maybe a virus on the system, a corrupted camera feed, something explainable. But then, the blanket in my actual bedroom shifted. I heard it. A soft rustle. Not loud. Not attention-seeking. But unmistakable. I didn't go back in that room. I locked the door and slept in the hallway. If you can call what I did sleeping. I kept my eyes open until morning. And every few minutes, I swore I heard breathing. Not mine. Coming from behind that closed bedroom door. Morning came like it was afraid to enter. The light through the window was weak, gray, barely enough to cut through the apartment's heavy silence. I sat against the hallway wall, my back stiff, eyes dry. I must have dozed off sometime near dawn, but it wasn't restful. More like my body gave out. I didn't hear the breathing anymore. Didn't mean it was gone. I stood up slowly and stared at the bedroom door. It looked normal, just a door. But it felt like a boundary. Like something was waiting on the other side, pressing gently against the wood, listening. I didn't open it. Instead, I grabbed my keys, phone, and coat and left the apartment. I walked until my legs ached. Nowhere in particular. Just away. I passed the same shops, the same bakery on the corner, the bus stop with the cracked glass. It all looked like the world I remembered, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was in the reflections. Every window, every shiny car door, my reflection moved just a beat too slow. Not a full lag, not obvious. Just enough that I noticed. Like it had to think before it copied me. I tested it in a storefront window. I raised my right hand. My reflection raised its left. Mirrored, I thought at first. But no, its body was aligned with mine. It should have been the right hand. I waved. It waved. I smiled. It didn't. It just stared. Expressionless. Unblinking. I stepped back. It didn't. I nearly fell into the street. People passed around me, none of them noticing the wrongness. A woman brushed my shoulder without looking. A kid rode by on a scooter, oblivious. I stood there, trying to breathe. And then I saw it. In the reflection. Not me. Behind me. A shape. Faint. But there. Thin, tall. Its head tilted at the exact same unnatural angle the other, me, had on the TV. Too still. Too intentional. I spun around. Nothing. Just the sidewalk. The cars. The noise of traffic. But when I turned back to the glass, the reflection was gone completely. Gone. No shape. No me. Just the window. Empty. And in the center of the glass, a fingerprint. Pressed from the inside. I didn't go home right away. I couldn't. I sat in the park for hours, just watching people. Strangers. Normal people doing normal things, walking dogs, scrolling phones, arguing on benches. The world seemed so solid when you watched it from the outside. But every time I looked down at my own hands, I felt like I wasn't part of it anymore. Like I'd slipped just a fraction out of sync. At one point, I turned on my phone, half tempted to record something, maybe document it in case I ended up in a hospital. But as soon as the camera opened, I dropped the phone. The live preview showed my face. But not the way I was holding it. I was smiling. Not a grin. A wide, frozen stretch. The real me, I, wasn't smiling at all. I lifted the phone carefully and tried to recreate the angle, to see if it was just a delay or a glitch. But the version of me on the screen was still smiling. Holding the phone in a slightly different way. Breathing at a different rhythm. Then, without warning, it blinked. But I didn't. That's when I realized. It was watching me, too. And it knew I knew. I turned the phone off and didn't look again. By the time I got home, the sun had set. I stood outside my apartment building for a long time. The windows were dark. My windows. No movement. No flicker. When I finally went in, the air inside felt wrong. Too still. Like the apartment was holding its breath. I checked the closet. The TV was gone. Not unplugged. Not moved. Gone. Just an empty space where it had been. My gut turned to ice. I searched the apartment like a madman. Every room, every corner. I pulled back the shower curtain, checked under the bed. Nothing. Then I heard the click. That low, mechanical snap of an old CRT powering on. I turned toward the sound. It was coming from my bedroom. I opened the door slowly. The TV was sitting on the dresser. Plugged in. On. And on the screen, once again, was that mirrored version of my apartment. This time, the camera was set at my eye level. The couch was in the same spot. The walls. The lamp. And I was sitting on the couch. Not moving. Just breathing. Staring into the camera. But now, something had changed. The people from before were all there too. The crouched one. The tall one in the corner. And one more. One that was standing directly behind the couch. Its face was mine. But not my face. No, this one was all wrong, too smooth, like a mask. Its eyes too wide. The mouth parted slightly in a way that looked like it was ready to whisper something unspeakable. The image on the screen began to flicker. Faster. And then, suddenly, the figure on the screen lifted a hand. And so did I. I didn't tell it to. I didn't mean to. It was like something else had moved me. Like the reflection wasn't repeating me anymore. I was repeating it. I jerked my hand back like it had been burned. My heart was slamming against my ribs, and I staggered away from the screen, gasping. The image didn't flinch. The figure on the couch, my duplicate, kept its arm raised, hand outstretched, as if reaching through the glass. I unplugged the TV without thinking. It didn't turn off. No flicker. No loss of signal. The screen held the image like it was alive, like the electricity had never mattered in the first place. And that's when I realized. It didn't need the TV anymore. It just preferred it. I stumbled out of the room, slamming the door behind me. My breath felt thin, my skin buzzing like I was full of static. I grabbed my phone, stupidly, desperately, and opened the camera again. Black screen. No signal. Just a white error message across the top. Camera in use by another application. I wasn't running anything. I powered it off. Still, in the reflection of the black phone screen, I saw movement. Just for a second. Something standing behind me. I dropped the phone and ran to the front door. Locked. Deadbolt jammed. The key wouldn't turn. I yanked it, twisted it, nearly bent the metal trying to free it, but it wouldn't budge. The lock was stiff, immovable. Like the door didn't want to open. Then I heard it. A soft hiss. Not gas. Not steam. Whispering. From inside the TV room. Voices, all layered over each other. Too low to understand, but fast, as if they'd been whispering for hours and had to get everything out at once. I pressed my ear to the bedroom door. The voices stopped. A second later, I heard the unmistakable creak of the bed. Something was sitting down. I backed away. I didn't know where to go. Every screen in the apartment felt like an open eye. I turned off my computer, covered the monitor with a towel, flipped my phone face down and stuffed it in the couch cushions. But then, from across the street, through my living room window, I saw something that made my blood freeze. In the electronics shop, just a few floors down, across from my building, the TVs in the window display all powered on at once. Every single one. And on every screen was the feed from my apartment. Not from the camera. Not from a phone. From somewhere else. From a place that looked just like this, but felt older, darker, watched. And on the central screen, biggest of them all, was my face. Pressed up against the glass. Mouth open. Eyes wide. Staring. Right. At me. I dropped to the floor. Flat, out of view from the window. Heart hammering. Breath shallow. It felt like my lungs were filled with smoke. I couldn't stop picturing it. My face on all those TVs, twisted just enough to be wrong, like someone had copied me from memory and smudged the details. I waited there, chest pressed to the carpet, ears tuned to every creak and hum in the apartment. Nothing. Just the faint electric buzz that seemed to be seeping through the walls now. I should have left. I should have broken a window and climbed out if I had to. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something deeper than fear was holding me in place, something that felt like recognition. Like if I ran, it would follow, and if I let it in, it would welcome me. I tried the TV again. Still unplugged. Still on. The room on the screen had changed again. No longer a perfect mirror of mine. The layout was the same, yes, but the colors were all off. The carpet was darker, almost soaked-looking. The walls had strange, shifting stains, like water damage that writhed beneath the paint. And in the corner of the screen, the couch was covered in faces. Dozens of them. Like someone had pressed masks into the upholstery, mouths stretched, eyes hollowed, skin the same lifeless beige as the fabric. All staring at the camera. At me. And then the feed shifted. I didn't touch anything. Didn't press a button. It moved on its own. Scene by scene. It showed my bathroom next, tiles cracked, sink full of something black and thick, like oil. The mirror shattered. And something moving just out of frame, tall, spindly arms dragging across the floor. Next was my kitchen. Except in this version, every cabinet was wide open. Dozens of arms reaching out from inside. Human arms. Clawing. Tapping against the wood like they were waiting to be let out. I turned away from the screen, bow rising in my throat. Then I heard it. A soft buzzing sound. Not from the TV. From my pocket. My phone. I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't. But I did. The screen had turned on by itself. The camera app was open. And it was recording. I tried to stop it, tapped the screen, held the button, even restarted the phone. Nothing worked. It kept filming. But what it showed wasn't my apartment. It wasn't even my face. It was me. Yes. But it was someone else holding the phone. Filming me. And I was just standing there. Smiling. Still. Waiting. I dropped the phone like it was on fire. It thudded against the floor but didn't crack, didn't shut off. The screen stayed lit, camera still recording, still showing me, from a distance that made no sense. The angle looked impossible, like it was being filmed from inside the walls. I backed into the kitchen, dizzy, disoriented. Every window, every surface felt like an eye. There was nowhere to look that didn't feel like it was looking back. The microwave display flashed 3:33. But the oven said 12:01. The clock on my wall wasn't even on anymore, just blank, like time had given up. I turned slowly toward the hallway mirror. I hadn't looked into it in days. I didn't want to. But my feet moved anyway. Like they had their own plan. The mirror was warped. Or maybe it was me. My reflection stood the same way I did, wore the same clothes, had the same tired eyes and cracked lips, but it wasn't right. It wasn't delayed like before. This time, it was early. It moved before I did. Turned its head, blinked, smiled, a moment before my muscles even tried. Like it was showing me how I would react before I knew what I was feeling. And then, God, it spoke. Its mouth opened wide, unhinged at the corners, like its jaw wasn't connected properly. No sound came out at first. Then static. That same warped hiss from the TV. Garbled, warped noise like voices melting through wires. But under it, layered deep, I heard my own voice. Repeating one word. Switch. Over and over. Switch. 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 Each repetition grew softer, more pleading, like a chant turning into prayer. Then the image glitched, not the mirror, but my vision. The hallway twisted like a fisheye lens, lights dimming, the apartment folding in on itself. And for just a second I felt it. Something pulling me. Not toward a person. Not even toward the mirror. Toward a position. Like there was a version of me waiting just to the left of this world, one step sideways into a hallway that didn't exist, waiting with arms open, eyes wide, voice whispering. Let go. I turned away so hard I hit the wall. And all at once, everything snapped back into place. Silence. Stillness. Normal light. I was alone again. But in the quiet, a soft click echoed from behind the bedroom door. And the TV turned itself back on. I didn't go to the bedroom right away. I sat in the hallway with my knees pulled to my chest, just listening. Not thinking. Not even breathing too loud. The sound of the TV hummed behind the door, low, steady. Not like a show, not like a broadcast. Like a heartbeat. After a while, curiosity became dread, and dread became something worse, familiarity. The need to see had grown roots. Not because I wanted answers. Because some part of me knew I was already part of whatever was happening. That watching wasn't a choice anymore. I opened the door. The TV was still on the dresser, even though I'd never put it there. The screen showed my apartment again, but not quite. The furniture was placed the same way, the layout identical, but everything had aged. Yellowed walls. Darker floors. Dust layering every surface. It looked like a memory of my home. Or a version of it that had been abandoned for years. And sitting in the middle of the screen was me. No smile. No blinking. Just still. And the longer I looked, the more I realized it wasn't just a recording. It was a mirror feed. A perfect, symmetrical imitation of my current position. I lifted a hand. So did it. I turned my head. It matched. But with one horrifying difference. There were others in the frame now. Behind my seated reflection, one by one, they emerged from the walls, the couch, the door frames. Not walking. Not crawling. They phased in. Like smoke becoming skin. The crouched figure. The tall one from the corner. A dozen more, all watching me, or the version of me, like spectators at a play that never ends. And then it walked in. From the left edge of the screen. Another me. Identical in form, but not in presence. This one radiated intent. It stared directly into the camera. Not at the version of me on the screen. At me. And it said, without sound, just lips moving, perfectly clear. You're the last one left. Then everything on the screen turned black. Except for one thing. A small square in the center. A new camera feed. It was looking into my living room. From above. As if mounted in the corner. It was real time. I turned around slowly, scanning the corners of the ceiling. Nothing there. But on the screen I saw it. That other me. Standing in the living room. Facing the TV. Smiling. Not watching. Waiting. I didn't sleep. Didn't move. I just sat in the doorway, staring at that screen, at the feed showing my own living room from an impossible angle, where the light was just a little too dim, the walls a little too warped, and I stood at the center. Only it wasn't me anymore. The figure on the screen was perfectly still. Not blinking. Not breathing. Not even standing like a person should. It looked like a posed doll, locked into the shape of a man. But those eyes, they shimmered. Alive, awake, too awake. I ran my hand over the dresser, feeling for a power button, a reset switch, anything. But the plastic was cold, unyielding, seamless. No controls. No wires. No seams. And slowly it dawned on me. It wasn't a TV anymore. It was a window. A one-way mirror into somewhere else. Or maybe into here. And then, the figure on the screen moved. Not naturally. It jerked. Like a puppet pulled hard on its string. It raised one hand, just like before. Only this time, it was holding something. A remote. My remote. And as I watched, it pointed the remote toward me. Click. The lights in my apartment flickered. I froze. The air changed, warped. It got heavier, like I was being compressed. The space around me stretched in the corners of my eyes, and my reflection in the black screen of the TV delayed, like it couldn't keep up. Then the voices started again. Not through the speakers. From everywhere. Low. Whispering. Chanting. Switch. 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 And in that moment, I felt something I can't explain. Like a fold in the world had opened up. Like all the walls, all the glass, all the screens weren't barriers, but portals. And they weren't showing me another world. They were showing that world me. And whatever was inside them was getting closer. I stumbled back into the hallway. Every screen lit up as I passed, my phone, my laptop, even the microwave display, each one flashing a different camera feed from inside my apartment. Different versions of it. Some showed me sleeping. Others showed me watching. One, just one, showed me screaming, but no sound came out. And that's when I understood. I wasn't the viewer. I never had been. All this time, I thought I was watching the TV. But it was the one watching me. Recording me. Studying me. And now something else, something wearing my face, was about to take my place. I turned to run. But the hallway stretched, longer than it should be, flickering with static in the corners. I passed a mirror and didn't see myself anymore. Just a dark room, empty, waiting. And a whisper from behind the glass. "We've been watching." Then, nothing. Just black. Not sleep. Not unconsciousness. Just off. Like someone hit the switch.